Afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Steakhouse. It's that time again. That's right, our weekly look at T-Bones Baseball and the American Association right here. Coming to you next in 3, 2, 1. That's right. Let's roll the open from the Steakhouse here on the T-Bones Broadcast Network. I don't know why, and it's the funniest thing. I play the open and see it's frozen on your screen. You guys are seeing this frozen screen. It's driving me insane. It's driving me crazy that it's frozen on the screen, and I don't know any way around it. I'm just want to just for the sake of my own sanity, because it drives me up the freaking wall because I pay for this service. It drives me crazy. I'm just going to try to see if it actually will. What I'll do, I'm going to pull it down, and we'll just kind of pretend like Dan just opened up and he had some great things to say. And here comes the open in 3, 2, 1. Let's just see if it'll play when it's supposed to play. I already played it once in the pre-show taping, at least the pre-show worked. So I know it worked then. And we go live, it doesn't work. So let's try it again. Let's just see if it'll roll on command. 3, 2, 1. Fingers crossed. I don't get it, folks. I just don't get it. It drives me. This drives me insane. You spend all this time trying to do a quality product, and this is what I get. So what I give you guys. I just want to curious. I'm kind of playing. There we go. Yeah, we're going to play the weekly show of will Dan's open work or not work. It's baffling to me. And so what's going to happen now, before I even get to the baseball, I'm going to write a recommendation at the end of the show because it'll ask me how the service was, and I'm going to be ticked off because the open was just a total mess, that it won't work. And it just drives me insane. All right, good to see you guys. We know the audio works. We know the video sort of works. I'll get that off the screen. We'll digress with the open. Maybe the close has been actually working pretty good, right? And the 2-minute countdown works. Because you're trying to put together a professional broadcast, but yet the system doesn't cooperate. And see, that's what drives me. And my wife knows. I'm just like right now. I'm got smoke coming out my ears. All that work that you do, and it's just all for naught. So anyway, we'll fight through it. We'll figure it out. There's a couple ways around it. The problem is, and just to pull the curtain back on how we do things, I can load those opens into the YouTube channel. Only problem is to put them back in the system, which it works. It does work. They're going to have to go live on YouTube as well, which it's not a big deal. I mean, no one really is going to go over there and click YouTube to watch the opens. They're going to watch the show, which, by the way, you're on YouTube Live and on Facebook Live. We're multicasting right now. We're on 2 channels, Facebook, my Facebook, and the YouTube channel, Dan Vaughan Broadcaster, and that's where we are. So we're doing, and I don't think I've told you guys this. That's been the case the last, 6 weeks, something like that. We haven't really pushed it, but I'm starting to push it more and more and more, and it gives people more options and more places to go. Anyway, what's on the show today? I get to see Brian, GM, working hard downstairs. See Donna and Jeff as well up in Kansas City. Hope you guys are doing great. It's Wednesday. It's that dry dock version of T-Bones baseball. Now, we're only 21 games away from this season being over for us. And I say that over, and I almost want to use the word mercifully over, because for T-Bones fans, we want to play ball. And for T-Bones staff, we want to play ball. And we're not playing ball. And we only got 21 more days until we go to the off season. And you're saying, well, yeah, but that's not baseball season. Yes, but my thinking is this. Once we get to the off season, that means we're one step closer to 2021 and what we're going to do in 21. Now, that all assumes that there's all these other things. There's like a long laundry list of things that got to happen, right? We all know that to get back to quasi-normal, but we feel like if you read the news and what we're being told and what the world is, really how the world is working, you figure that when we get to the off season, we're going to be somewhat back to a step closer to normality as T-Bone's family, right? So that's why I'm counting on the days. We're only going to have the next, I guess there'll be 4 more shows, 3 after this one, but 4 more weeks of this, and then we go to the off season. They finished the baseball season, the American Association, September 10th, and what a race it's going to be for those 6 teams playing, the 6 teams not playing. As a reminder, of course, your T-Bones, our friends in Cleburne, our friends in Grand Prairie, Texas. By the way, thoughts and prayers for those folks today. The big fire that happened down there, not too far from their ballpark down there, maybe about a mile, 2 miles, I think, at the most, from where they are. But anyway, it was a big plastics plant fire down there, and it's been burning all night and all through midday here in Dallas-Fort Worth. But again, Grand Prairie, Cleburne not playing. Of course, Kansas City, Lincoln, our mates in Lincoln, and then our rivals in Sioux City. Then the Gary South Shore Railcats not playing either. Those 6 teams sitting idle. And then right now you got Winnipeg, who leads the association, and I'm going to get to them in a moment, how impressed I am about them. Milwaukee in the second position, then right there behind them is half game back Sioux Falls, then St. Paul, then Chicago, then the Fargo-Moorhead Redhawks. Those are the teams playing the American Association. Glad you're along. This show is very T-Bone centric, and we also give some highlights of the American Association throughout the week. I figure that if you're watching the association, if you're a fan of Sioux Falls, St. Paul, you're getting all your knowledge that you need to get from the guys like Carter Waddell and Sean Aronson in St. Paul. You're getting plenty of content from them. So we kind of only covered just the basics, the highlights for our T-Bones faithful. And also we're taking a look at the T-Bones with the T-Bones connections. It'll be former T-Bones, T-Bones who were signed in 2020, guys that have played even years, early in 17, what they're doing in the American Association, and also any kind of news and notes, and just kind of give you guys some takes that I have. We also start with the Wednesday's Wisdom. I didn't load the graphic again, but if you want me to kind of reach over and I don't think did I show this to you guys last week? I don't think I showed this to you. Give me a moment, okay? Now, so bear with me. It's going to get a little rocky here, okay? But I'm going to show you, this is what sits beside my desk. So bear with me here. This is going to kind of take a little moment to pull behind the scenes there. That's what sits right by my desk. That's of course, this came from there. My glove and an assortment of baseballs that are sitting there, and my wife put that little bowl we have there, little antique bowl there we have. We actually, oops, sorry about that. I got to put this back on there. So, but that sits right by my desk. So I got my lamp right there is my baseballs, and I think I showed you guys in weeks gone by the Hall of Fame ball there. This one here is an American Association, just a generic one I caught off the press box, I believe, at some point. I believe that one was, let's see here. Here's a Brett ball. I have you guys, the Brett brothers, of course, George, big fan of ours, the official Australian Baseball League right there, ABL. Brett brothers right there. I don't think anything. Well, I've shown you some of the novelty ones. I'm trying to find one. I got an ACC ball somewhere. This one is, let's see here. Now, here's the ACC ball. The reason I got this is the Notre Dame ball from their Irish Classic, which is a tournament they do, goes over a course of several weeks. It's weekends. They play at different venues throughout Northwest Indiana, and one of them being they had one of the games they played against, I believe it was against Richmond, I think. Gosh, it was. I was there, and I don't even remember that. No, or was it St. John's? I believe it was. Played them at the Steelyard in Gary a few years back, and that's where I got that. Anyway, the baseball. This Wednesday's wisdom. Get off sidetracked here. Yes, Brian. The same thing happened last week on the Open, and there's a deal. I've got this system. I got two systems, and I love this system because I'm able to bring guests in in case someone to chime in, and then there's an outside chance we may get a late guest. I don't think we are going to. We could, so they have that line, and also, but you can do more with the other program. I can do a lot more with it, but this one's a little more flexible on the fly. Does that make sense? And I like them both, and I use both. I have equipment for both. I've really installed a pretty cool setup that's going to really help us next year with T-Bones Live and the Cup of Sizzle and all that. But, yeah, you're right. It did happen last week. I don't know why it keeps happening. And there's a way around it. You know me, my wife knows I'll bust my hump trying to figure out the gremlins, right? Anyway, baseball. Now, we've covered the evolution status of baseball, the baseball, not the game, but the actual baseball, right? That's Wednesday's wisdom today. We always open up with something historical. It could be top of the pandemic. We've done a lot of different odds and ends, but the actual baseball itself, we talked about how it was filled with feathers early on. It would travel real lightly. Pitchers made their own baseballs until the 1870s. Actually, really the 1900s, pitchers still made their own baseballs. There was really kind of a generic way a baseball was made until 1910. Even then, there was some discrepancy here and there. Pitchers, when the baseball kind of went into a uniform policy in 1910, pitchers started scuffing, spitting, doing whatever they could do to make the ball adjust and make it. And back then, it was legal to do that. I would scuff them down with the board or whatever in the dugout, and pitchers were kind of the guys that, the umpires didn't have the big. And now you see the umpires throwing in the new baseballs in the bag. That wasn't the case back then. But oftentimes, you use a baseball until the thing cracked, almost like playing football, where the home each team uses their own footballs. It's kind of the way it works back in those days. And of course, that all changed though, as we talked about in 1910, 1920s. The offensive numbers started to rise. There were a lot more 300 hitters than there were previous to the 1920s. In 1925, now actually, here's an interesting note about Australia, where Australia figures into this. In 1920, a couple of important changes were made to the baseball, and they began to be made. They use a different machine to use a higher grade of yarn from Australia. So this yarn here that they used a machine that they'd hand sew it before. They started mass producing them using a machine. In the red thread you see here, that red thread, we call it the seams. The seams, 2-seam, 4-seam, all that. 2-seam fastball, splitter, whatever. I'm sorry about that. Your different grips, of course, your 4-seams, your 2-seams, your 4-seams, how you grip but the seams are the yarn. It was a higher grade of yarn from Australia. This yarn was brought over, imported. They started putting them in the baseballs. There was no evidence these balls traveled further as far as scientifically, but they began to travel further. So pitchers still scuffed more, did what they had to do. In 1925, Milton Reach patented the cushion cork center. I'm going to show you that in a moment. It was the cork core surrounded by black rubber, then a layer of red rubber. Now, that lasted till the mid-30s. In 1934, the National League and American League came to compromise to standardize the size of baseballs. And we talked a little bit about this, how it was loosely standardized in the 1900s, but it became the official, and if you go to the official league rules of baseball, the actual baseball size is in there. Let me pull that up because I had that earlier. The circumference, it's 5 ounces. 5.25 ounces, 5 ounces to 5.25 ounces, 9-inch circumference one direction and 9.25 the other. So I guess it depends on which height and length and height, but they're dang near. And I guess the only difference is because of the seams on each side make it that little extra. But that all became universal back in 1934. And there's been some changes since then. Notably, it was horsehide before, which I didn't know this, that horsehide was the original leather being used. Now it's cowhide, rawhide. We're going to talk more about that in a moment. Baseballs were switched. That happened in 74, by the way. That was up until the 70s that you actually had horsehide, became rawhide. The term pill, you ever heard the baseball called a pill? That was used because the original, the redesign in the 1920s and 30s, using an insert, a little circular rubber ball that was a small rubber ball, they wrapped it around. That was called the pill. I'm going to show you guys here what I'm talking about here. Give me just a moment here as we talk amongst yourselves here. We always do this, right? And we do that. Here we go. Here is a shot of the baseball, how it looks. I'm going to give you guys a full screenshot of this. So check this out. This is a full screenshot of the evolution, not the evolution. This is a full screenshot of what the baseball process is now. Okay, so you've got your ball. You know, remember you ever open one up and seen a cracked baseball? Now those threads seem to go on forever, right? They just go on and on and on and on. Well, that thing's coming up for just a second to show you guys this. But the baseball, really 3 basic parts. The pill, the rubber, and the cork center consist of a sphere, 13.16 of an inch, 2.06 in diameters, centimeters in diameter. It's made of cork or made of a composite rubber material. I don't know why my picture's not coming up. Let me try it again there for you guys. Sorry about that. This is from my other system, Brian. I'm using it. It just jumps right out at you. There we go. Let's try it again. Good to see Christian Crea. By the way, Christian's going to figure heavily in this show in a minute. Stay tuned for him in a moment. I got some video of Christian, some great stuff from him. Here we go. Here's a good shot of the baseball, what it looks like if you were to unwrap it. There is that, again, the one on your left, the far left screen. That's the pill, the rubber, and cork center. That's the second one is the winding. The first winding is made of a 4-ply gray woolen yarn. That's that second ball of yarn. And then the third layer is a 3-ply white woolen yarn. And then the fourth layer is white poly cotton finishing yarn. And then you've got, actually, I'm sorry, the third is the 3-ply gray. I'm sorry. Pardon me. I skipped one. The second's a 3-ply white woolen. Third's a 3-ply gray woolen yarn. And then skip to the far right, and that's the fourth, is a white poly cotton finishing yarn. That is the final wrap until you get to the cover. The cover is made of #1 grade alum tanned full grain cowhide, mostly Midwestern Holstein cattle, which I believe a Holstein, that would be a milk cow, I believe. I believe. Am I correct? I should know my Hereford from my Holsteins. But Holsteins are preferred because their hides have better grain and are cleaner and smoother than those of cattle in other areas of the United States. So left to right, that's what a baseball looks like, and that's the real change with the baseball. Remember, we talked about earlier, a couple weeks ago, that there was a real feathery like feeling to it. There was a cork insert, and they just kind of wrapped it as they wanted. The pitcher thought, I got more feeling out of it, so I'm going to wrap it this way. It was up to what the pitchers wanted to do. And, of course, they changed around the 1900s with the cork center, and then they adjusted again, actually in 1910 with this ball and this ball in the middle. So that's what the baseball looks like left to right. If you chop that thing open, that's today's baseball. Notably, too, that Spalding, we talked about Spalding was the official baseball going on until the 1970s, but Rawlings became the official baseball, has been since the 1970s. So there's your baseball history lesson of the old pill, the yarn, the pearl, what do you want to call it? And it's called a pearl for a reason. Next week, we're going to tell you why. Let me show you. Let me see, get a good example here. Next week, I'm going to show you, this is what your ball would look like coming out. That's what it looks like coming out of the box. It comes wrapped in a box of baseballs. I believe it's a dozen. They come in a dozen baseballs in a box, and they've got it wrapped around with a little that paper wrapping like you'd have like the stuff they put inside your shoes when you get brand new shoes in a box. Same thing, or the tissue paper. It's what it is. Then they get rubbed down, and here's a real good example. Let me compare the colors here to you. See the two colors differences here? There definitely is a shade difference, right? Well, the rub down, we're going to talk about that next week, where it takes it from a pearl to a game-ready baseball. We're going to talk all about that next week in our Wednesday's Wisdom. A little longer than I wanted to go with that today, but it's good stuff. And I love the history of the game, and especially this time when the T-Bones aren't playing and put my props away. It's always good to learn something new. And I didn't know some of the history of the baseball myself, as far as pitchers doing it, design the baseballs, how they're made. I also unearthed some tidbit I'll give you next week on the Japanese ball, and I'll remind you next week, but I've got to give you this, that the Japanese baseball used to be slightly smaller by about a half centimeter, a little bit more, but that's all changed recently because of the Major League Baseball size is the same baseball used in international play. The Japanese team, the national team, they are obviously very competitive, top 3 team in the world, and they decided they might want to start playing with the same size baseball that the rest of the world plays with. So it's all gotten more standardized. It's now just a mere sliver of a centimeter different size now than it was prior to 2018, when they made that adjustment for after the 17 season. So there's your baseball. There's your Wednesday's Wisdom right there. Glad you're along. The show's the Steakhouse. How about some water? Of course, I will take your questions, comments at any point. You'll see Lisa out there. I mentioned Christian Correa. He will figure in this show at some point, and we will get to his exploits shortly. But I'm going to start with the headlines as far as 2 guys, and I think you're seeing with the standings, the way things sit, and right now with Winnipeg, Milwaukee, and Sioux Falls, all 1, 2, 3, and really Winnipeg has the slight lead, 3-game lead over Milwaukee, and then 3.5 over Sioux Falls. You're seeing some adjustments at the top of the card, really up and down, because St. Paul's very much alive too. You're seeing some folks bolster their lineups, their rosters, whatever you want to call it. Alex Bouchier's a dear mate of mine, a phenomenal young man. He is signed with Sioux Falls. He joins the Canaries in their rotation. Of course, 29-year-old Ohio native, spent last season with the Birds. 21 starts, 119 innings pitched for a much different Sioux Falls team. He also is adept to pitching that ballpark. That's a very big part of this whole deal, to seeing him there. I think it's good to have you grab a guy that knows how to pitch in Sioux Falls, which is a place that the ball jumps out of. Of course, Wichita Wingnuts from 15 to 17, but we're joining Winnipeg in 18. 1.86 of the bullpen is first year at Wichita. You remember him, and because that, and I'll tell you this, his numbers were so impressive at Wichita. I got a phone call from Perth saying, "Hey, tell us about this guy that's pitching for Wichita. That's been facing you guys every other night or so out of the bullpen." I gave him a really good write-up on Alex, and got a chance to know him there in Wichita, and eventually he came over to Australia, pitched for the Perth Heat, and we were really glad to have him over there. One of the top pitchers. You really go back over the last 5 years, he's one of the top pitchers in the league consistently, a guy that's up there. He's an innings eater, as I've talked about this before. Remember the anteater story I told in the air? He's an innings eater, guy that's going to go out there. Even on nights he doesn't have his best stuff, he's going to go out there and get you innings. Very much like a Tommy Collier. Tommy Collier, a T-Bone's lower guy, even on his worst nights, would fight you tooth and nail and get you 6, 7 innings. And save that bullpen and give you a chance to pull something out. But Alex very much like that. And Winnipeg a couple of years ago, he was 21 starts there, finished with 3 and 10. I'm sorry, with 21 starts with 3.71 in the top 20 in the league a couple of years ago. Last year, up and down year, but 5.55. But again, the fact he can pitch in that ballpark, do not underestimate the signing there. So it's a big addition to the Canaries, who are right there just a half game behind those Milkmen. By the way, I'm going to show this picture of Alex as well. This is the picture I talked about with you may have heard this on I was on the Cleburne show, and also a few weeks ago, a month ago, really 2 months ago, I guess now. It seems it all runs together, doesn't it? But this is a picture I have of him when he pitched for the Heat. And this is one of my favorite baseball pictures I took. And it's one of those things that one day maybe I'll have my own display at some kind of museum or photo gallery of picture on my phone, which, mostly obviously baseball-driven pics, but this is a shot of him with the Heat, and this is him making his first start. And the team was taking batting practice one afternoon. Actually, the first day, the team had flown across the country, had left Australia from Perth at about midnight on a Wednesday, arriving early morning, sun up in Melbourne, and we were checked in the hotel, crashed and burned, and then we all headed to the ballpark. This is the opening game of the season in Melbourne, Australia, back in 2017. Here's a focused Alex right here, Boshears, just watching his teammates take batting practice. And I love this shot of him. It's one of my favorites, and seeing him there. But the shot of the new Sioux Falls Country. So good to see him, and congratulations to him. Question being asked quickly here. Didn't the AU have issues with the Brett brothers balls being hittable, or were further? Why would that be? There was talk. Yes, the ball you're talking about is, let me see. I think I put them all away. Here we go. The ball GM's talking about is the official baseball of the Australian Baseball League from a couple of years ago. It's the Brett brothers ball. There's no scientific research that tells you one way or the other. Most pitchers swear that the ball traveled further. Most hitters were kind of meh. As a broadcaster, the league, because the ballpark dimensions are so up and down, for example, it's hard for you to sit there and tell you in Brisbane, which is a band shell of a ballpark. I believe Brisbane is 280 down the left field line, 285 to the right, but I think the deepest part of Brisbane's ballpark is, I want to say, 300 to straight away. And it's more like 270. It's like the average distance that the outfield fence is 270. There's places where it's 260 in the power alleys. I mean, and they've got this huge tall fence in right field to keep the ball from peppering folks in the picnic area. So, I mean, Brisbane's a ballpark where I saw the EO, the traveling secretary who hadn't played in 2 years, suit up on a Sunday, hit a home run, and in the first pitch he saw. So, I mean, there's ballparks like that. There's also ballparks like Perth who play very much like a normal American ballpark, North American ballpark, standard dimensions throughout the alleys with the wind coming off the ocean. The ball doesn't travel well to right. So I don't know that I don't know how much of it is the ball itself. Pitchers swore the ball traveled further. Hitters were kind of meh. Fans were excited because the ball traveled further. But I don't know if that was ever been really proven. But yes, players did say that, but it was never any study officially done on what was that the case. But yes, the American Association uses the Rawlings ball, which is this one right here. This one's an old Miles Wolf one. This is from 2 years ago, which you can see. Actually, you can see both of them actually been rubbed down. We're going to talk about this next week, but you can see that right there. So yes, good question from my lovely wife, who one of our viewers right now, one of our handful. All good, but yeah, it's frustrating because this show is on my channel, not the T-Bone's channel, and that does frustrate me a little bit. But all good. Okay, other news and notes from the association as well. Of course, you watch this hopefully on replay, and I hope you are. I mentioned that other teams doing some things to kind of shore things up. This is a guy you may recall, Chris Nunn, who 2 years ago was an obstacle, a major obstacle in Game 1, and he came back and pitched in Game 4 against the T-Bones in the American Association Championship Series. He has joined the St. Paul Saints. He's back, a young man who was at AA, AAA with the Dodgers, was signed over the weekend, spent the second half of 18 with the Saints, became you remember his story. I'm going to get to that in a moment, but you guys remember this guy left baseball and went to Lipscomb University, left baseball for a year, worked for a talent agency there in Nashville, came back after the 17 season, reinvented himself a bit. And when he came back and he had reached, high levels with the Rangers organization, or pardon me, with the Cubs organization, initially out of Indy ball, he came back. And what do you recall the whole deal with him? And I'm going to kind of read this verbatim basically, but he was an internet sensation. He's one of the first guys that I recall using the internet. There's a guy named the Pitching Ninja on Twitter, a guy, Rob Friedman, better known as the Pitching Ninja on Twitter. At the time, he had 100,000 followers, now over 230,000 followers. He used his Twitter to push his bullpen sessions via Flat Ground Twitter account. It was another account called the Flat Ground Twitter account. 20,000 followers at the time, now 42,000. So he used those two Twitter accounts and would send them and tag them in videos of his bullpen sessions. And one of his bullpen sessions, he hit 99 miles an hour on the gun, and that even drew more and more attention. Eventually, he would be signed by the Rangers organization, released in 2019, but would be signed by the Dodgers organization shortly after that, and spend AA and AAA with the Dodgers last year. But this is a guy that, if you're looking for, Mike Devine at the top of your card of your rotation, you throw this guy, Chris Nunn, in there, you got a 1-2 combo that can win you a playoff series, can help you win a series. And when you're sitting a half game, or really, I guess then we'll check to the standings in a moment, but as far as you're sitting in the standings, you're right there 2 games off the playoff pace with 21 games to play. This is a big signing for St. Paul. So St. Paul getting some of their stalwart rotation from a couple years ago back together again. I don't understand why people like home runs, and I'll never understand why people like home runs and lots of runs, Mike says. Mike, I'm with you on that. I think I love. Put it this: when I'm watching a game like this, just kicking back, and I'm at the game, and I've got my cold one, and I'm watching the game. I want a little activity, but when I'm on the edge of my seat watching as a broadcaster or in the playoffs, I want that low-scoring, throw strikeout guys, play good defense, push a run across, timely hitting. I want that. I want that 4-1 game, 3-2 game. I want the 3-0 shutout. I want to see a little bit of that. I want to see your team put up 3 runs and see your stud go out there and shut them down. That's what I want to see. I'm a little bit like that, although I think we live in a time where offense is what sells tickets. The home run is the big thing. It's what they have a home run derby. They don't have a pitching derby. They have a home run derby at the All-Star game. So I think that's also part of it. I think also the young kids like the home run. It's one of the big complaints we've talked about in sports with soccer in North America, why a lot of fans just don't appreciate a 1-0, 1-1 game in soccer, because Americans want more scoring, more points. And I think that's sort of the way we've become. Let's see here. Are we telling T-Bone signing stats to post records for this year's players? No. Well, yes and no. Let me give you the answer 2 ways. They will not count as single-season T-Bone numbers. So, for example, let me see here. Let me think of Dylan Tice. When Dylan's said and done this year, currently Dylan is hitting, let me find that for you. Tice is hitting 259 right now, and he's played 40 games. That average in those games will not go to his T-Bone ledger. That'll go to him as a Milwaukee Milkman. Now, his career numbers in the association will be the same. Now, if let's say Dylan winds up in the top 10 in stolen bases when he's done playing, number 5 or 4, or maybe leads the league in stolen bases when he leaves the game, those stats would go along with his T-Bone stats. His American Association career stats, yes, but no, they're not going. There'll be no T-Bone's records this year. It'd be fun to note them, I think, to see who led the league as T-Bone signees, but they will not count as T-Bone's records. They will not count as T-Bone's home runs. They will only count as Milwaukee Milkman home runs or Milwaukee Milkman hits. So a good question, though, but no, that's not the case. Brian, I saw the American Association came the week last Thursday on Facebook. I thought the production was top quality. Brian, I agree with you. It's a much better product, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. Well, I've talked about that a little bit. I've been doing, and I don't know if you guys have been there. I hope you will. When you go to the American Association site, and I'm going to brag here for us. I'm going to brag a little bit. We've put up 6 videos. We're not playing ball. T-Bones aren't playing. We've got 6 videos on the American Association TV site. Of the 6 teams playing, and this is I don't know what I can't control what they're doing, but I'm very proud that what we're doing, that we're putting up videos and content. We put up 6 videos with interviews of various types from this show alone. But I think the show is much better. We're going to see, I want you to watch in a moment. We're going to play some highlights. I want you to see the highlights because I think Milwaukee, for example, phenomenal job. St. Paul, phenomenal job what their product is on TV, on the stream. I think it's great stuff. Fargo also, great stuff. Chicago. They've all really done a phenomenal job. Sioux Falls, much improved. Their camera is so much clearer than what it was in years past. It's a much better product. And I'll tell you this, Brian, going forward, there'll be more content on there. Next year, you'll have more highlight. You see the highlight reels. What I love about it, there's the highlight reels, former old broadcast, place for other content. We've just got videos, just our extra content because we don't have highlights or any old games. They didn't want us to put the old games on there. And I understand you're debuting a new product. Let's show the new product. Let's not show the old product. And I totally get it. And but we'll be putting things on there as well next year. Highlight. I'll have a crew of interns. All they will do is that'll be their responsibility to make sure that is updated around as fast as possible when we're home. And then also, I believe coming next year too, Brian, there'll be the option to be able to hear a T-Bone's play-by-play call when we're on the road and not just have to watch the St. Paul Saints coverage of the game. That's the only thing I don't like about it, and I'll be honest with you, Brian, and I've spoken about this time and time again, I champion because if we're doing a league-wide broadcast, right? We're all got these broadcasts going on this American Association TV site, which, by the way, I guess I can pull that up for you and show you guys where to go on that. There we go. This is the place to go right there, AA Baseball TV. But Brian, if you're going there and I encourage you guys to check this out. It's great stuff, really great stuff. And the only thing I have a problem, not a problem, one thing I want to see them do going forward, because it's going to be a hard thing for us as T-Bones, and I know the Railcats feel the same way, others. When we're on the road, we're playing, like I said, St. Paul, for example, and you're watching the AA baseball site, you have to watch the AA, and I love Sean Aronson, but if you're a T-Bone fan, you want to hear from the T-Bone's perspective, why did such and such player not play tonight? Who's the new guy playing third? Tell me more about him. Not that Sean won't do that, because he will, but he's doing it for the St. Paul Saints fans, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with what Sean's doing. Sean is doing the right thing by his fans. Now, Sean's a professional, so I know he also covers both teams equally, but his job's with the St. Paul Saints. That's his job. My job's with T-Bones. That's my job. My job is to tell you more about Dylan Tice, something funny from the bus, something that happened with the team. It's for you to hear Joe Capietra's comments. Yes, you can tune on the radio and hear those, but if you're watching the video side, you can't hear what's going on with the T-Bones post-game, T-Bones pregame. That's something you could do on the old site. You can't do now. That will change. I've been told they're going to work hard on that. The coming next year, you'll be able to have which is what the Major League Baseball MLB app is. You're able to do that as well. So you can check that out and keep our fingers crossed. That's the only place, Brian, I get concerned, is that you guys would not be able to hear, Joe's comments. And again, if we're playing at home and it's Sioux Falls playing us, those guys want to hear what's going on with Carter. They want to hear what he's got going on. They also want to watch the video of it. Now, granted, if you're listening on the radio, you're probably on the move anyway, but there's still that option for folks who want to do that. So that's the only thing. But yes, it's a phenomenal product, and I'm so happy for the association, and that's why we put content on there. It's really great to see. Check that out, American Association. They're aabaseball.tv. Check that out right there. That's where Brian was talking about. The game of the week is on there, and all the games are on there as well. All righty, let's see. We were just talking about Chris Nunn. Glad to have him back in the league as well. One more note about another team. It's probably not going to do a lot to help this team out that made this signing, but it's good to see this young man back in the league. And I mentioned this in my personal happy hour last week. Alex Crosby, the young man from Gary South Shore Railcats. He's not from Gary. He's from actually out in the Bay Area. But Alex Crosby was signed by Fargo. Congratulations to Alex. He's back in the league. I love his story because I think he tells us what the American Association is all about as far as what this league really is about. the league is, getting guys an opportunity is the first thing. And those guys who get opportunities, give them exposure to get them back to chase their major league dreams. And Alex a lot of guys, especially the Gary Railcats, they weren't drafted. He wasn't drafted. He went to Sonoma State out in California. His cousin is John Jones. Remember John Jones played for Gary, former Blue Jays prospect. John was one of the best defensive players I've ever seen. And John, he's got, of course, is real good friends with his father, with Alex's father as well, Clinton. His uncle is drew a blank here. His uncle is the Desmond Howard, former Heisman Trophy winner. I drew a blank for a moment. ESPN fame is his uncle. But Alex had 10 games in the association in 2015. He kind of scuffled a bit, hit 200, was 6 for 30. And here's a place in a young man's career where he could have easily, and I've seen this happen time and time again, where a player young, maybe at Gary, is a great example. They went through a lot of players there. Greg Taggart told him, hey, I want you around, but I don't have a place for you right now. Go home, get some at-bats, play in that Pacific Association, that independent league out there. Sonoma, I believe, is where he was playing. Get some at-bats. We're going to give you a shot. You're going to get a shot again. And it's easy for a young man to say, well, okay, I'm going to finish my degree, which he got his degree at Sonoma State. I'm going to go into private business. But he wanted to chase his dreams one more time. And so Alex came back the next year, played and went from 10 games in 15 to 86 in 2016. And he's played 86, 70, was injured a bit in 17, 90 and 80 the last 4 years. And now has been with the Fargo now for a week. And congratulations to him. But good to see him back in the league. A young man who's, could have very easily said, Study's become probably, along with Colin Willis, the two keys, the cog that made Gary so dangerous the last couple of years there on the South Shore. But welcome him back. Again, I don't know if that's going to make a big difference. Fargo's, it looks like they're going to have to really, really get busy to get back in the race. We'll talk about that in a moment. Let's see here. Where were we? Oh, yeah, player and pitcher of the week. I'm out of my script's a little out of whack here. Sorry about that, guys. Top of the standings, mentioned those a moment ago. What Winnipeg's doing, I'm amazed because, now granted, it's a 60-game season, but what Winnipeg's doing, they're not playing any games at home. They are completely on the road. They even have their schedule adjusted, so they've got to, even though they're playing, in Milwaukee, they're going to be the home team over the weekend. They're still playing in Milwaukee, and they're not playing in their own ballpark. But Winnipeg, still at 23-16. They're a game and a half clear. Let's see if we give you a better shot of this guy. You may be able to see it on the screen. They're a game and a half clear of Milwaukee. Milwaukee's come on strong. 6 of their last 10. They're 22-18. Sioux Falls is a 3 back. I think it said a half game back. They're actually, Sioux Falls is a game and a half behind Milwaukee. Then St. Paul's a half game behind them, 20-20, just a game even there. Chicago lurking 18-21, but it's a big stretch for them. They've got to get busy and busy today. Fargo's 8 back with 21 to play. Not impossible, but that does present a major challenge. They're 7.5 out of the playoff hunt right now, but there's your standings in the association right there. A couple of notes on the schedule looking down the road. 21 games left, except for, I believe it's a couple teams actually have the doubleheader to make up, and that is, 29. Who am I missing here? Who is actually St. Paul's got 20 games. So they're actually, and who else? Milwaukee. They're both have played 4. They actually got 20 games remaining. Winnipeg and Milwaukee. Here's an interesting stretch. And right now they're playing Winnipeg and Milwaukee playing right now in Milwaukee. They've got this stretch right now. They're in this current stretch of 6 straight. Then they'll play 3 more to close out the year. That's the last series of the year between the two clubs. So Winnipeg, Milwaukee, there's down the stretch. That's going to be very big with the 9 games of the 21 left. Winnipeg also has only 7 games of Fargo. So Winnipeg's got 16 of their 21 ball games are against either Fargo, who is the team in the cellar, and against Milwaukee, the team trailing them. So that's going to be some good news, bad news. One more note for Sioux Falls, who's a game and a half behind. They do not play Milwaukee or Winnipeg the rest of the way. So they got a heavy dose of St. Paul. St. Paul's got a heavy dose of Chicago. There's all those in the mix. But, this is one of those deals where you're going to, right now with 21 games left, you're going to have to win your series. Win your series and also have some help too. But winning your series will go a long way. Or the other route in, I believe the other route in is winning a winning streak of 6, 7, 8 games. You run off 8 in a row, 9 in a row, you're going to be in a pretty good position, either claiming a playoff spot or to solidify a playoff spot as this 21-game stretch left, only 21 more days or games left in the American Association. Quickly, check the leaderboard here, pull that up on the screen for me. Of guys, Lay Lago leads the league, 355 clip right now. 2 homers, 26 runs batted in. Let's see, Roy Morales is third in the association, former T-Bone as well, 339. Of course, the signee this last year. And then in the fifth spot, 335, Carell Prime, former Perth Heater, right there. Mikey Reynolds, former Adelaide Giant and also a Kansas City T-Bone last year. He is 8th in the association, 316 in the average. Pitching-wise, Thomas Dormany still with a 2.68 leads the league, and then David Holmberg right behind him at 2.70. Chicago for Dormany, Milwaukee's ace and Holmberg. And then looking down at T-Bone's connections, Frank Duncan is 7th. He had a bit of a rough night last night in the loss at Milwaukee for Winnipeg, but Winnipeg's ace, a 3.46. 7th in the league, 4-1 for a Goldie. Duncan and Lamson. You got Mitchell Lamson, is injured right now, I believe, but you've got him with a 3.97. He's 10th the association, so a couple of nice pitching combos in Duncan and Lamson for winning. Home run wise, Victor Roach of Chicago leads the league. Adam Brett Walker, former T-Bone, 11 home runs, 2nd in the association currently. Let's see here. Runs batted in. Kyle Martin and David Damick Tomska are tied. Sioux Falls for Tomska, 33. Martin with 33. And then Adam Walker with 30. He's come on strong as of late, and he's got to 30. He is tied. Actually, he's 3rd in the league in runs batted in. Stolen base-wise, Michael Krause leads with 15 of Chicago. Darnell Sweeney, T-Bone's own, 9 stolen bases, along with Wes Darville and Mason Davis, a 3-way tie for 2nd in the association with 9 stolen bases each. Lay Lago leads the league in at-bats. And let's just see here. Runs scored. Andrew Ely of Sioux Falls with 40. And then let's see, hits. Lay Lago with 59. Leads the league. Mikey Reynolds is 3rd with 50. Let's look into the former T-Bones here. Darnell Sweeney in total bases, 3rd with 82. Let's see here. Lay Lago with 13 doubles is 3rd. Sweeney with 11 is 5th. And down the list here. Darnell Sweeney with 19 extra base hits is 5th in the league right there. I was going to check. Roy Morales, on-base percentage of .411. Roy of Sioux Falls is 2nd in the association. So just some offensive numbers. Pitching-wise, mentioned that Dormany leads with 6 wins and the ERA as well. Duncan with 5 is 2nd in the league. Jamison McGrain, we're going to talk about him in a moment when I bring Christian Cran's video up. But McGrain, 12 saves, leads the league. He was a T-Bone signee this year. Also, Mitchell Osnowitz with 9 saves is tied for 3rd in the association. Let's see here, looking down the list here. Strikeouts, Tyler Pike of Fargo with 55. Frank Duncan with 9 starts. Leads the league. Let's see, anybody else here? Just jumping out at me. Frank Duncan with 54.2 innings. Pitched his 2nd in the league behind Tyler Herron at 56. Let's see here. That's pretty much it as far as just notable T-Bones right there. But yes, there's your league leaders right there here. And let's see here, the question being asked. I'm guessing Fargo wished that Bennett, that's an easy second guess, I think. Don't you think, Mike? I love Jim Bennett, and everybody knows that. And I wish he was still in the league. He's a good man, a good person, just a good guy for the game. And I hate to see him go, but yeah, hindsight 2020, isn't it? Or at this moment, it looks like. And I think the one thing that they miss about Jim that probably won't be seen in it'll eventually Fargo will figure it out. It's player procurement. It's getting guys that with a big Rolodex. It's something we see Joe Capietra, who's phenomenal at that. George Samus, we know Rick Forney. Those guys are all at Winnipeg, have a Rolodex of players, the virtual Rolodex. It'll make those phone calls and fill those games. You see those things happening. That goes a long way, especially in this league where your manager is also going to be your player development guy, your scouting department, all that in one person. So I think you're seeing that's where you're going to miss the work of Jim Bennett. The show's The Steakhouse. My name is Dan Vaughan. Glad you're along. Put a lot of good questions today too. So I kind of get bogged down a little bit, but let's try to catch up, pick the pace up here, and get you guys your pitcher and player of the week. Let's start with the player of the week. And again, I am amazed at every turn what this Winnipeg Goldeye team does. So every time I see a player for them, in this case, Wes Darville, their shortstop, is the bat of the week by the folks at Point Streak. When I see that, I mean, good on them. Just what phenomenal work. I mean, again, remember, Winnipeg is playing all their games away from Canada. They don't have any. There's no friendly bubble for them. There's no, they're on the road. I mean, Steve Schuster, our good mate up in Winnipeg, has bags been packed. Those guys have not. Their gear across the border, and that's been it. They haven't had a chance to get back across, but they're not playing. Of course, they thought maybe early on there might be a chance, but that pretty much was told really from day one, from opening day, that they would not go back across. So they've been playing first place baseball despite not having a home to go to. So pretty impressive by them. But Darville, fourth year with the Goldeyes, all-star in 17 and in 19. He's one of those guys that you now will see when you go to Winnipeg. You'll see his name in the they put those banners in the hallways, the Reggie Abercrombies of the world. You're going to see the Darville photo up there too, because he's become a very big part of what they're doing. Of course, he's also a member of Team Canada, and he joins Lamson, Sweeney, and Nestor. All were named players and pitchers of the week, respectively there. The pitcher of the week is Tyler Heron. I don't know why my videos aren't coming up, but they're not. But here we go. Yeah, I guess it's finally coming up now, finally. I don't know why the Tyler Heron video is not it's showing up finally, so we'll roll that for you guys there. But Tyler Heron is the pitcher of the week this week for the association. Actually, this is the Darville play. This is Darville. Give me a little Darville video. Here's Darville right here. Give me a little Darville video there.
Makes his way to third.
Cover video of Wes Darville.
A couple years ago. Darville drives in a deep right field. Back goes Sawada. Back to
a big home run. This is a blast right here. This one hit the top of the wall, and they weren't sure it was out, but it hit on the top of the wall. It was out. But it was a 2-run blast there for Darville right there.
And it's now 11-0. The 0-2 high fly ball deep right field. Forget it. Coulter turns and watches.
And another shot right there, another home run. This one leaps into the pick there and the double deck right there in Sioux Falls. And there you go for Wes Darville. He is the player of the week. You get to see that. And get the video finally loaded in. I wasn't sure what was going on there with the video. But I mentioned Tyler Heron. I don't know if do you guys know this? He's also one of their coaches. Do you guys know this? Excuse me, but Heron is one of their coaches there, and he has been the leader of this ball club, the staff. Of course, big right-hander. Love those canary yellows. Those are good-looking unis, aren't they? There's a strikeout of Reynolds. Workhorse the rotation, 6 innings in the last 5 starts, 4 of his last 5. Birds was 6-2 when he takes the mound this year. I mean, this is a guy that's getting it done. His second year with the Canaries at the cage. He's also his first as a bench coach, 7 starts to end the year last year after he was picked up in a trade with Fargo, 3.78. The Cardinals pick at 05, 33-year-old, 8 years of minor league experience. He's out of Florida, reached AAA in 2016, and he has a 4.12 ERA in the minor leagues over his career. But that is his complete game right there, where he went the distance there against St. Paul last week, and he was the pitcher of the week in the American Association. Tyler Heron, congratulations for that accomplishment. Pretty big. A guy can come off the bench as your coach and also lead your team, and you put him along with Alex Boshiers. Things aren't looking so bad. I mean, it's going to be this is going to be a delicious race between Winnipeg, Milwaukee, in Sioux Falls, and probably St. Paul, who's made the rounds as well. I want to show you guys something too. This is fun. Did you guys see this by chance? Christian Correa, our dear old mate. Correa, of course, 2 weeks ago, last show, we showed him the 2 home runs he had in the ball game. Let's see, questions here. Yeah, we're talking about Jim Bennett. Yeah, I agree totally, Mike, about that. 100% getting that comment there. But yeah, sorry about that. I missed your comment. I'm glad you guys are along too here in the Steakhouse, as I did get a chance to get your comments there. But yeah, Christian Correa had the 2 home run game 2 weeks ago. Was a big hero. When I saw this, actually, I happened to. It was funny. I got a message from this week in the American Association's own Kevin Luco, and he was telling me he was watching the game, and I happened to tune the game on. He messaged me while I was watching it that Christian Correa just walked it off for St. Paul. He got down an 0-2 count, and this is what he did. I'm going to pull this up. I want you guys to hear the audio courtesy of the American Association and those friends of ours in Milwaukee. Here it is. This is the Christian Correa home run from a couple of nights ago. Promise you it's going to come up here in a moment. But there we go. Come on now.
It is American Association Baseball. The up there in the low to mid-90s, but he looks, I guess because he's a bigger guy, it looks like he's throwing a lot harder than the velocity gun says. All right, the pitch. Swing and drive! Deep to left! See you later! Christian Correa walks it off for the Milkmen, and Milwaukee wins it 4-3. McGrain got one over the plate, and CC took it out of here, and this crowd is going wild.
Yeah, they were going wild there in Milwaukee there as Christian Correa walked it off there. I'm trying to pull up one more thing about this game as well. I want to share with you guys, but that's the voice of the Milkman. Tom Wynn is his great call right there. Gotta like a guy who says, see you later. I know a broadcaster who says the same thing. Whenever he does get a chance to call home runs, not very often. More on Christian as well. This video was so long. I wanted to play the whole thing for you guys, but Christian, though, with the home run, 0-2 count there, and suddenly you add Adam Brett Walker, what he's doing, you get contributions from Correa. Suddenly, Milwaukee finds themselves in a pretty good spot in the American Association. They're right there in second place. Only 2 teams made the postseason. But again, in that ball game, McGrain, who would have been a T-bone closure this year, most likely, 12 saves and not blown a save when he asked to get 3 outs for St. Paul. He walked Jose Sermo. Then Aaron Hill ran for Sermo. Dylan Tice actually tried to move him around on a bunt and a popped-up bunt and didn't move him. And then they wind up with Hill at second base on a stolen base. Then he struck out Zach Narrier. So it's down to 0-2, your final strike, and boom, you're staring at a defeat. But nope, Correa came through big time for us Milwaukee Milkmen. And it's so good to see good people like Christian Correa, seeing guys like that do what they're doing, seeing them, achieve. And granted, Christian was not going to be a part of the T-Bones this year, but seeing him and his mate right there, Mason Davis. I want you guys to see what happens here in this little video here. I want to get you to watch the full-blown. I want you to watch this here. I'm playing the highlight here, so I want you to watch what happens. It's slowly, I don't know why it's so slow today. It's really driving me crazy. That home one, that thing was crushed off the scoreboard, but why don't you watch what happens here after he rounds the bases here. This is the fun part. And he's got the interview. There we go, get dumped on there. Yep, he got dumped on there. And so you got the ice bath, got the ice bucket. And good to see that from Christian, but Correa getting it, and it's good to see. You got to feel good when you got your guys doing what they're doing. And he's a former T-bone, but he's such a fan favorite, such a great guy. and to see him succeed, you want to see that. And it does my heart good to see him doing what he's doing, and to see Christian Correa trying to find out if I can find out who that was that dumped on his back there. I believe, let me double check that, who that was. It was number 9. I think at first I'm not going to go back and look at this, but I want to double check and see who number 9 is, because I don't have it here. Oh, well, sorry guys, this should have been already prepared for this, but number 9 for the Milkmen, and should be, is that, I think, just want to see, because I didn't know who that was. Aaron Hill, that's who that was. It was Aaron Hill. I didn't recognize the number. You know, I knew it wasn't Mayday. It wasn't Jose Sermo, the guys I knew, but it was Aaron Hill who actually dumped the water there on Correa. So good to see that, and good for Christian there. Good to see him. Just phenomenal stuff for Christian Correa, getting the home run, and just again, does my heart good to see that. Don't know why the screen's frozen up. Having all kinds of troubles today here, guys, aren't we? Mentioned Christian Correa, other T-Bones having a good week as well. I want you guys to see this one. Okay, now we all know Sioux Falls is a hitter's ballpark, right? We all know that Sioux Falls is a launching pad. But sometimes the ballpark doesn't do it justice, or maybe the ball doesn't do the game. I don't know. I'm trying to think of how to say it, but sometimes the ball and the home run, the park don't matter. They've been hit out of any ballpark. This is one of those home runs. Now, Darnell Swinney is up the MVP race, MVP candidate. Sorry about that. Just going to get a little fluid in me here. I mean, he was an MVP race, but how often? I want you guys to watch this when it gets to the very tail end. I'm going to play this thing in real time for you guys, all right? I'm going to play it in real time. I'm actually going to bring the volume down too, and I'm going to play this in real time. I'm going to break down the very end of the video, so watch this in real time. This is Sioux Falls. This is Darnell Swinney last week. Check this out. Man, oh, man.
Swinney hits a high fly ball, deep right field. Zawana back, he looks up, and it's gone.
There's your home run.
Darnell Swinney with a
Did you guys see the ball? Did you all see that? Let me bring it back just a second. Let me bring it back a second. Few clips back, and watch where the ball is.
Swinney hits a
see where it is?
fly ball, deep
and
right
see it
field.
bounce? Did you guys see that? Okay, I'm gonna bring it down
And
to you
it's
slowly
gone.
here. Watching around the bases. I'm gonna
Swinney
bring it down to you
with a
now.
two-run bomb to
That
right
ball
center
left
field.
the ballpark in Sioux
Second
Falls,
home run of the inning.
landed the parking lot with such velocity, it bounced higher than the wall. Did you see that? Watch this again. Watch this again. See, there it is. I'm going to slow it down for you guys. Slow it down. I'm going to focus it in. Here we go. Watch. See it leave. There it left. There it bounced. See it leave and bounce. See it bounce. How about that? It hit and it left the yard. And see how high it bounced over the wall? That's behind the wall. That is behind the wall in Sioux Falls. Swinney hit it out of the ballpark, and the daggum thing out of the ballpark and bounced higher than the wall and hit the concrete. That thing is a bomb. Again, and that wall there, I forget the dimensions, because it kind of nooks and crannies over there, but that wall's got to be 30 feet high, because that outside wall was the actual old wall of the ballpark back in the day. It's at least 30 feet high, at least. So that's all 300 and let's say 65 feet to the base of the wall, over that 30-foot high wall, which clears it, bounces, and it's a good 10 yards past the wall. I couldn't believe when I saw that. Can I comment on the meaning of this year's championship? Comment on it? Well, they'll be the champions of the association. That's what I can tell you. I will say, let me put it to you this way. If it's Winnipeg, that's a pretty big deal, because you would have won by playing you would have done something I don't think's been done in recent memory, because the last team that barnstormed, well, it didn't go so well. Salina. You guys remember Salina? What, 2017? Didn't go so well. Prior to that, Joe Capietra knows about the Gary South Shore Club in 2002. He was named manager of the year just because the team was competitive. They played all their games away from Gary because the ballpark wasn't ready. And Joe, by virtue of the fact that his team didn't sink to the depths of the league, and the old Northern League, was named the manager of the year. It's not very common for a championship club to play as a barnstorming team. And now, granted, yes, it's only playing in a 6-team league. You can take that into effect. But I still think if Winnipeg wins the league, you've got to sort of say, hey, there's no asterisk there. I also, by the same token, say if St. Paul wins it, remember they played more than about half their season or more on the road as well. I think there's something to that. I think those two teams would be important to note that the reason they won it despite, yes, 6 teams playing. Now, Chicago won it. They played their whole schedule at home. Not whole schedule, but they played their normal home and away. You know, Sioux Falls, home and away, but, Fargo, home and away. Milwaukee, home and away. But I still think that, at least from my standpoint, Winnipeg and St. Paul. But again, if you're in the Milwaukee clubhouse, don't you feel pretty good about it? I'll tell you this, for the league, would love to see Winnipeg and Milwaukee. I'll tell you why. A, because I think Winnipeg's a great story. And B, Milwaukee's our new member of the league. I love to see some good energy going. I'd love to be able to go there in 21 and see them as a contender. And their fans are into it, and that the place is jumping. The atmosphere is great. Everything I've seen, that's the case. They do a great job there. So I'd like to see their great work being rewarded. And what they're doing in the field is, what their skipper Barone's done has been phenomenal. Putting that team together, been pretty good. They're playing pretty good baseball. It's a good club. Yes, there's going to be an asterisk there. They're still going to be champions. They're still going to get rings. I think in this day and age, because of all the empathy, they should. Granted, St. Paul didn't defend their title playing, against the entire association, and the T-Bones didn't get a chance to do their thing, and Cleveland didn't do their thing either. But in that 6-team league this year, that's your champion. Yes, we can put an asterisk by it. Well, they only won with 6 teams, but still they're the champion. So my answer to that question is they're still the champion. I do believe it means more if it's Winnipeg or St. Paul, but I would be happy for Sioux Falls winning. Baseball's back in Sioux Falls. I'll be happy for anybody. I'll be happy for any team that wins it in that group. Those 6 teams, I'll be happy for any of them. There's a good story in each one. I'd be happy for any of those 6 teams. I'd be happy with the Milkmen, who've got a lot of T-bones. Winnipeg for that just the grind they've been on. St. Paul, because I think what they do is really first class, and I love Sean. Sioux Falls, I'd love to see baseball really thrive there. It's a great city. I love my visits there. Chicago's kind of new. I don't know much about them, but I've enjoyed my times there. I have no problem with them winning either. So I guess that's my answer to it. I suppose. Let's see on our questions, comments page. You still got to still have to line up and beat whoever's in your league, a championship. Yeah. And I got to go from the ABL standpoint. The ABL with 6 teams, you had a 1 in 6 chance of being the champion. Now there's 8 teams in the Australian Baseball League, and now granted it's stacked against you to if you win the regular season title, the pathway to success is pretty easy to win the whole thing, but it's still a championship in Australia. It's the champion of the Australian Baseball League. That's the league those teams signed up for, those 6 teams, and now 8 teams. These guys that signed to play Milwaukee or wherever, Winnipeg, they signed to play for those teams and to win games. That's what they want to do. So those guys are going to celebrate as if they won a 12-team league. But are the rings the same? Yeah. Here's the deal. You and I both know as fans the things that went on this year, and that's going to be sort of the asterisk behind it. But it's still a championship. They're still champions, regardless. Now, I think the interesting part about it is what happens to these teams in 2021. let's just say the 2021 team that wins it all is Winnipeg. Let's just say what they have in 20. Do they have what they bring back in 21? Can they if they compete for a championship in 21? Then I think that speaks volumes. I think with St. Paul competes for a championship this year, which they look like they're going to, speaks volumes what George Samus does. 6 teams, 12 teams, whatever. Now if you go next year and those teams fall off in the last place in the division, maybe so. I mean, I guess the question is, if Sioux Falls is to win, what happens to them in 2021? I think Sioux Falls is trending up. As in a limited sample size last year, Sioux Falls is the best team for about 6 weeks. Extrapolate that out, maybe the best team in the league. And that's where they're at with Mike Myers' program now. So, the cynic in me would say, yeah, it's an asterisk thing. But at the same time, if I'm broadcasting for these teams, I want to win that league, especially knowing what they've gone through. As exhausting as it is for us not to play, and as painful as it is for me not to call T-Bones games and to hug you guys and see you guys and call a T-Bones good news night and to do the things we do with the T-Bones, but as painful as it is for me, it's probably likewise painful for Sean Aronson to live out of a suitcase for an entire summer, over Steve Schuster crossed the border from Winnipeg and not be able to go home. I mean, these guys are living in a suitcase. I believe Steve has banged up a fender bender in his car, and he's, the poor guy is away from his support group. These players are away from their support group. Now, granted, we do that. We're away from our support group anyway on the road, and oftentimes we're away from our wives and family anyway. But we have our friendly home cooking. We've got our own clubhouse. Those are little things. But you got your own apartment, your own host family, whatever it is. I mean, those are all important things. And if you don't have those things, it's a challenge. So I think that's painful. So I think we're all going through some hurts and some pains. So I would have told you a month ago that, yeah, asterisk for sure next to whoever wins it. But after going through this season and watching what they're going through, and experiencing the pain that I've experienced and the hurt that I've experienced by not having the T-Bones, and the not just the hurt, not just financially, but emotionally and mentally, and just having our hearts together, that's painful. We're all hurting right now. We're all hurting as people. We all are hurting and suffering in some way. And I think I've come around on that whoever wins should be celebrated in this crazy, crazy ass time. If they win a championship in the most craziest of ways, in the most crazy season ever, good on them. Good on you, mate. Congratulations, and I hope you celebrate big time. It won't be the same championship as winning a 100-game season, but it shouldn't be. It should feel different. Next year, we play 100 games, it will feel different. It'll be a different season. We're going to feel normal. We're going to feel a little normal, I guess, right? It'll be weird coming back after being gone for basically 2 years. I mean, heck, I wouldn't have called a T-Bones game from September of 2019 until May of 2021. Year and a half or almost 2 years. It's a long time to not call a T-Bones game, not speak to you guys. That's going to be strange, but I think once we get going, it'll be a normal season. But you still celebrate that season like you celebrate this season, each one under its individual umbrella. And this year, it's an umbrella of pain, suffering, hurt, loss of life, loss of commerce, just a loss of a lot of things. And if that means that these people can celebrate Winnipeg, St. Paul, Milwaukee, Chicago, Sioux Falls, and Fargo, whoever wins it, good on them. Happy for them. So sorry about the commentary. Let's see here. Mike, no Winnipeg, no Milwaukee, no Fargo. I don't know what I said. No Winnipeg, no Milwaukee, no Fargo. Not sure what you mean by that, Mike. Clarify that, Mike, if you could, as I kind of got a little tangent there. Yes. And let me tell you something, Brian, about that. I'm going a little longer than I wanted to, so I need to close this thing out. The MLB is not past the class. Some places have passed more than others, but basically the MLB can't get out of their own way. I mean, you got teams that are not able to, you got players on teams that can't stay out of trouble, who can't stay. You have players in the big leagues who can't follow, whose rules don't apply to them. You have Cleveland Indians players who the rules don't apply to them because it doesn't apply to them. So they just don't want to, they would do their own thing. You've got some teams that, do it as a team. You've got unwritten rule drama. You got all this nonsense that baseball can't get on their own way, but little old American Association plugs on, puts a great product on the field, a great show on the field, 6 teams, 2 teams, 1 team, whatever. And I think I've said this on Talking Baseball Australia, said to you guys last week. I think we're finding that the simpler, the smaller, the more circle the wagon mentality can get it done. Where we're seeing the big Major League Baseball with all the resources can't get it done. Little American Association has gotten it done, and it's an A+. And I think you're going to see it. I can tell you this for a fact. Sports folks worldwide are watching the cricket folks, the baseball folks, the rugby folks, those folks that play in the Southern Hemisphere, the NBL in Australia, the Basketball League, they're watching what the American Association has done. I can tell you that. When the league president of the Australian Baseball League tells me, they watch, they know, they're watching what they're doing. And you know that these people all watch each other's product, regardless if it's baseball, football, cricket, tiddlywinks, or stacking BBs. All the same. You're seeing what the American Association has done, man, that's good. It doesn't make my pain go away, and it shouldn't make your pain go away as a T-Bone fan, but it is a good story. Okay, I'm not trying to belittle the fact because it hurts that we're not playing. It drives me up the wall. I am incensed that we're not playing. I'm upset about it, painful about it. 2021, September 10th can't get here fast enough for me. I want this season over, not because I want to see the season over, because I want to get the off season so we can start counting down to those new seats and new things and promotions and all these things we're going to do next year. But yeah, you're right, Brian. That's a great point. Who wins the champion? Okay, you're talking about no Winnipeg, no. Oh, you don't want to. Oh, yeah. Okay. Mike, in a normal year, I'd be right with you. I don't think anybody knows me, knows my teams I like more in our league. I have a really soft spot for the Gary fans. I don't always agree with what they do on the field as far as the roster, but, I love Gary. I love Greg Taggart. I have a soft spot for St. Paul. I love the way they do things. I think they do things right. I'm not going to lie to you. There's certain teams I like more than others. That being said, this year, I got no problem with anybody this year. Next year, if it's Cleveland that wins it all, dang it, I have a problem with that. I can tell you that right now. No, I love Cleveland. That's a bad example. But, next year, if it's team I dislike, and you guys listen to me enough, the teams I like and the ones I don't like. Just listen to the old broadcast, and you can hear me chuckle when Swagmaster talks about a certain team. I chuckle. I still love them. I still love everybody the same, but I may not like their team, right? It's like I say about, my college, my folks at church. I'm a Red Raider. Most folks I go to church with are Baylor fans. I don't like Baylor at all. I do not. I call them the school in Waco, but I love those people that go there. I love them dearly. I'm close to them. I don't like the Texas A&M Aggies. Can't stand them. But I have a brother-in-law who's an Aggie. Love that man dearly. You can still love people and still cheer for them. And that's my coming from, Mike. In this crazy, crazy time, I got no problem who wins it this year. Now, next year, dang right I do. Next year, I don't want Winnipeg to win it. No, I don't want Fargo to win it or Milwaukee to win it next year. This year, I don't care. Because, again, in this crazy time, we're all hurting. I just want somebody to feel good. Somebody to have some love and some empathy. So maybe that's where I'm coming from. I prefer the championship goes to anyone except Fargo, Winnipeg. Yes, I know you meant. I know. I'm with you. And again, normally I'm right there with you, Mike. But this year, like I said, all right, guys, I'm glad you were along. Went a little long today. This show was sort of more just kind of simple. It's funny when I simplify things like I did, how it goes longer because I get good questions, good comments. And you guys, because I'm not talking to you every night on the radio, and because we're not doing the cup of sizzle every day at lunch, I get my chances to get some of these things out to you guys in the cup of sizzle, on the broadcast. We're not getting a chance to do those things, so I missed that. So you guys can draw me off sides easily. And you know what? You know old Dan, he'll fire off some opinions when he needs to, and I have no problems doing that. Also, a couple things, too, to pass along to you guys. I didn't get a chance to. I'll go get into this to you right now. I don't know if you guys saw this, and if you did miss it, I'm sorry you guys did. Here is the finished product of what the seats look like at the ballpark. And I think you can make this out. The seat, it's a little bit of a, I guess I can put this on the entire screen for you, and I guess that'll help. This is the seats, the new seats. We talked about this last week on the show. Put these up for you. This is what the seats look like. How about that? New cushions, new seats. Those don't even have the numbers on them yet. That's how new those things are. They don't even have numbers on them. And then this is the actual finished product here. Let me put this on the screen for you guys. How about that? Remember I showed you guys last week? I think you guys saw this on Nathan's shot. I may have that photo too, before and the after. That's the after shot right there. I believe I have the before shot. But see those green seats? You can make them out. Looks good, doesn't it? Looks really, really good. And to see, let's see if I've got it or not. I think I got one. I want to. Yeah, here we go. Here's one. Here's one last. Here's one from. Here's a better one. Here's one from last week. Let me show you this one too. I'll bring this one back down. This was last week. This is what it looked like last week. There it is. This is last week. That is the last week's shot right there. How about that? You guys gonna get a shot of that? There we go. They ripped out the entire seats. That's what it looked like. They're all gone. See you later. And this is what they look like now. Bring this in. Here we go. Here's what it looks like now. There we go. Get a shot. How about that? A little tougher to see, but you can see it right there. So good to see that. And good for Miller time and good for the T-Bones. Again, it's exciting to see. Again, we've had such a up and down with some of the things that have gone on. And just to see some good news, back-to-back good news. We've had, of course, we had the Royals decided to come and hang out with us, which we're so happy for. And then you also, with the fact we've got the new seats, that's a big deal. I mean, you couldn't be just a better time to be part of the T-Bone family, and excited for that. All right, coming up on the future shows next week, we'll just say same thing, same time, same place next week. And I'm going to give you guys a couple of little odds and ends. I don't know if you guys know this, but we do have some other things we do. One of them being this show right here. It's T-Bone's Greatest Hits. It comes your way tomorrow at noon. Last week, a little longer. This week, you're going to dive into the vault. And we're going to be a little more playoff-centric now going forward. We've only got 4 more weeks of the show. So join us on MixLR tomorrow, and we will bring you a page from the T-Bone's past. It's the radio broadcast. And what I do is I break in with you guys, and I will give you guys kind of the pull back the curtain moments as I remember them, and those games themselves. Some of them have been kind of, I won't say ho-hum, but they've been until this point. A couple of them have been playoff games, but up until this point, we've pretty much been doing kind of waiting around for that final stretch, because you guys know where we're going. We're going to be very heavily focusing on the 2018. Last week and the week prior, we focused on the 2019 season, but we are going heavily into 2018. And you guys will definitely remember some of those good feelings that happened on dates like the 11th of September, the 9th of September, just teasing a little bit. So you guys will be going that direction as we'll join that tomorrow. MixLR, go to the T-Bones channel, MixLR, MixLR, and join us in the vault, and we will, you see it right there. I guess I could put up the screen for you guys too, should I? Probably be a pretty good idea to do that for you guys. MixLR, there we go. How about that? Put that up there for you. Go to MixLR and check that out. That'll be tomorrow on noon Central Time, and I'll break in and give you guys kind of just the insight to what, if I can, if there's anything exciting, but I'll break in. And last week we were talking about, 2 weeks ago was travel. Last week, I forget what it was. We jumped in and we had good turnout last week. So join us and chime with your questions and comments, and we'll do that tomorrow at noon. What else I got going? Oh, yes. So Talking Baseball, Australia Baseball's Best Mate airs tomorrow night. And that is from Australia and Perth, and from Dallas, and we do that thing Friday morning in Australia, and we do it in the States Thursday night, and we talk baseball from an Australian point of view. So you can check that out. Of course, this show right there, always the Steakhouse every noon. Now, don't guys forget this. It's on Facebook and YouTube, all right? So if we're friends on Facebook, no problem. If we're not, YouTube is a great place to go. Dan Vaughan, it's a place to go, and you can catch that as well on our YouTube, my YouTube page, noon every Wednesday for the Steakhouse. Again, a lot of thank yous today. Everybody joined along. Great comments, great questions, good stuff. Everybody, I really appreciate you. It means a lot just to see the familiar faces, all the love out there. It's been a tough summer, but we're going to fight through it, and we're going to get this thing going to 2021. And I know great things are ahead, and there's excitement building for what 2021 is going to bring, and your Kansas City T-Bones in baseball in the American Association. Again, virtual hugs to all you guys. I love all y'all. I say it every week. Let's be better when this thing's done. When we get back to some kind of normal, whenever that is, let's be better. Better fans, better teammates, better coworkers, husbands, wives, brothers, sisters, nephews, cousins, uncles, mates. Let's just be better in the end, okay? Let's show some love and empathy for one another. Okay. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you guys next week at this same time, noon Central Time. Let's hope the open, the close is better than the open. How about that? Let's try it. I think it is. We'll see you guys next week. Good night, Sizzle.